How Gratitude Changes Everything. Joe Vitale is best known by his role in The Secret. How many of you have seen The Secret, the movie? Okay, not everyone. It actually is more of a documentary, and it's all about the law of attraction. Now, all about, I don't mean that it's everything about the law of attraction. What I mean is the whole movie is about the law of attraction. I think that movie was very instrumental in bringing that spiritual principle into the masses, The Secret. He's also known for Zero Limits, his book, Zero Limits. Excellent book. I highly recommend it. And in the book, he also introduces the ancient Hawaiian healing method, Ho'oponopono. I'm very happy I learned how to say that. And the man most known for Ho'oponopono is, and I'm happy I learned to say this, Dr. E. Haleakala Hulin. It took some practice. Dr. Joe Vitale also was our keynote speaker at our past Regional Unity Conference. And I was chosen to be his, wing person. That was so much fun. Back to my story. Joe Vitale tells this story. He hasn't always been in this, living in luxury. Now he collects classic cars and vintage cars, and as far as in the financial world, he's pretty much made it. He travels all over the world. He says he does pretty much what he wants to do. He enjoys good health. He talks wonderfully about his wife and his family these days. But in about the 1980s, Joe Vitale, it was a very different story. Joe Vitale found himself in a rented room. He said he had an old car that was broken down most of the time. I like what Edwene says when she was experiencing some difficulty in finances many years ago. She said she just put on her list that she wanted a car that knew the meaning of a round trip. So he finds himself sitting at a table in this rented room in a rather sketchy part of town, feeling sorry for himself. He looked around, and all he could see that he had in this room, other than the very basic things to sustain life, was on the table, someone had left behind a pencil and a pad of paper. Well, he looked at that pencil and pad of paper in the midst of feeling sorry for himself, and he thought to himself, here's this pencil and this pad of paper. This is all I have in the world. I could take this pad of paper and I could write with this pencil, and I could make a list of all the horrible stuff that's wrong with my life. I could make a list of all of the people that have done me wrong in this life. I could write a suicide note. And then he stopped himself. And all of a sudden, he had an idea. Or, he said, I could take this pencil and I could start writing things that are going right in my life. Things that I am able to do. People in my life that do support me, even though at this point they're very few. This pencil has an eraser. I can write out my faults and things that have gone wrong in my life, and then I can erase them and leave them to the universe. He said that was a defining moment in his life. After that, he said, that it wasn't like he moved and it was a straight line upward. Like many of us, we have a defining moment in our life that turns our life around into the direction that we're wanting to go, but it's like steering a ship. You can turn the ship's wheel as far as it will go in a direction, but it takes miles for the ship to turn around and head in the opposite direction. So there were lots of things that went on in his life between that time and now. And just as an aside, Joe Vitale lives near Austin in the Hill Country, so he's a Texan. Living a life of gratitude, with gratitude in the forefront, is like magic. Rhonda Byrne wrote another book. Rhonda Byrne is the person who wrote the book and pulled together the movie, directed the movie, The Secret. She also wrote a book, Magic, or The Magic. I can't remember which it is. But in this book, she talks about, it's all about gratitude. The whole book is about gratitude. How the things in our life that we miss sometimes because we're not living in an overarching gratitude. And it is like magic. We know there is a very foundational piece of teaching in the Unity movement and other places as well. I'm most familiar with Unity, of course. That says what we focus on expands. That is so simple that sometimes we really miss the point of that. Or it's so simple that we gloss over it. We think maybe it's too simple to be true, that what I focus on expands. It is a very simple teaching. If you ever look closely at the teachings of Jesus and many of our ancient masters, and many of the masters today, the teachings are simple. The basic teaching is simple. What we focus on expands. When we focus on wallowing around as I totally love the way God works. When I had no idea what Teresa's reading was today, but it is absolutely perfect for my message for today. That same situation that the young girl's family enjoyed together, she chose not to enjoy. They went to the same place. They toured the same rooms in the opera house. They went to the same ice cream shop, and the rest of them enjoyed it, and she chose not to. It is a prime example of the situations that we are in. Now, I'm not talking about forgetting and pretending that difficulties don't exist, because I'm all for turning and facing those difficulties, seeing them for what they are, dealing with them in the way that they need to be dealt with without wallowing in it. Gratitude is directly connected to the law of attraction. My favorite definition of the law of attraction is that which is like unto itself is drawn. That which is like unto itself is drawn. Whatever it is that we are feeling, thinking, speaking, doing is what we draw to ourselves. We draw to ourselves, and it is drawn, and we are drawn to it. It is a mutual thing, I believe. There was a point in my life that I thought, I draw things to me, people, events, situations, and that type of thing. But now it's my belief that it's a dual effort, that everything in this world has life and it has meaning. We are drawn to certain things, and certain things are drawn to us. It is a meet in the middle type of situation. Typical there's often a song written about everything, if you just know where to find it. Roger Miller wrote a song, and how many of you are familiar with Roger Miller? He writes funny songs, or wrote funny songs, for the most part. One of his songs was titled, "Some People Walk in the Rain, Others Just Get Wet." Very typical of whether or not we are living in gratitude. Matthew 13, 10 through 13. Jesus was asked, "Why do you speak in parables?" Jesus answered them by saying, "Because they have not received the secrets of the kingdom, and you have." Now remember that piece. "For those who have will receive more, and they will have more than enough. But for those who don't have, even the little that they have will be taken away." Well, years ago when I was much younger, I would hear that scripture and I would think to myself, that is so unfair. That cannot be true. That even the people that have a lot will get more, and people that don't have anything, even what they have, will be taken away. It's like, that makes no sense. I never was able to make sense of it. So it would come into my awareness, I would perseverate over it for a little while, come to no conclusion, and then just move on, because I couldn't make sense of it. Well, in her book, I believe it's The Magic, Rhonda Byrne approaches this scripture, and this is what she says. All you have to do is interject the word gratitude. For those who have gratitude will receive more, and they will have more than enough. For those who don't have gratitude, even what they have will be taken away. I thought, aha, that makes so much sense. Because when we live in a state of gratitude, either more is attracted to us, I think it's really both. More is attracted to us, and we see more that we did not see before. When we live in that state of overarching gratitude, we would do well to live in gratitude like an overarching rainbow. Just picture that whenever you're just moving along in your day. It can be a good day, a rough day. It's all perception anyway. Or it can just be a day that things are just status quo and you're moving along. But picture yourself with that rainbow of gratitude over yourself and see the things that you may miss otherwise. I believe, I'm not positive about this, but I believe it was Diogenes that said, I think he's 3rd century philosopher, that said, either we will have gratitude in the small things, or we will have no gratitude in the larger things. And I have found that to be true. In my observation over the years, I have found that to be true. One of the things that I, not so much anymore, but I used to hear when I used to do hair. One of the fun things that we used to do in my salon was, it was an open concept, and there were 8 of us that were just in an open concept. So we frequently got into each other's conversations. I mean, in a situation like that, don't try to have a private conversation, it's not possible. But one of the things that we would do is to talk about what we would do if we won the lottery. What we would do if we won the lottery. That's just fun. It's a way to just get to know people a little bit better, and it's just fun. So I would hear people say in situations like that, well, when I win the lottery, I'm going to give to, and they would name off a charity. Or they would say, I'm going to establish a foundation and fund a charity. And I'm going to do this and do this. And just, you know, when it was appropriate and I felt like I could do it, I would just say, you know, what are you doing in that way right now? You know, we can always do a little something in that way. Oh, many of them would say, oh, I can't afford to do anything like that now, but, you know, when I have all of this, and guess what? When how we do anything is how we do everything. If we're not giving from the smaller amount, chances are when the larger amount comes along, it's going to look very different. It will look very different. And if there is a grasping mentality, then there will be a grasping mentality no matter what. The universe always says yes. The universe always says yes. Sometimes it's not now, later, a little bit different than what you asked and that sort of thing. But the universe always says yes. And the universe has perfect hearing and perfect seeing. The universe hears our thoughts, hears our words, views our actions, and this is what sets the foundation for our lives. When we say things like, I can't pay my bills, I don't like my job, I'm not in good health, I can't find the right partner, the universe says, right you are, and sets up circumstances to show you that you're right about it. I'm saying you, I should say us. As I've told you many times, many of these messages that I give on Sunday morning, I should be holding a mirror in front of my face. So I want to tell you a story about Evelyn MacDonald. In 1980, Evelyn MacDonald was is a nurse with a master's degree. And so when she got a diagnosis of ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, she knew that there at that time was no known cure for this disease. And her doctor gave her approximately 6 months. And the prognosis included that she would steadily lose use of her body until she passed. So she went home and was extremely angry and upset. I mean, who among us wouldn't be? She was in her 30s when this happened. So and she decided that she wanted to make a list of everything she hated about her body and everything she hated about her life. And so she did that. And she went to bed that night, woke up the next morning, and decided to get rid of that list. And that she was going to choose something or some things about her body that she liked. And that she was going to start focusing on it, because she decided that if she had only 6 months, that she was going to make the best of those 6 months. And so she decided that her hair and her hands, she liked her hair and her hands. So she decided that she would, in a wheelchair, she described herself at that time as being a bowl of Jell-O in a wheelchair. And so she would unclothe herself, sit in front of a mirror, and say blessings to her body. And then she would name off, her list went on, she decided that she needed to add at least one thing to her list every single day that she loved about her body. And so the list went on and the list went on, and eventually she started to realize that she was regaining some muscle tone. Well, She didn't get very excited about it because she thought it might be a temporary thing, but she continued to do this 3 times a day for 20 minutes a day. And telling her body that, and this, you can recognize this kind of thing because this is exactly one of the things that Myrtle Fillmore did when she cured herself of tuberculosis at a time when it was incurable. So, at the end of the story, one of the things that she says is, these are the 3 things she did. I just named off one. Unclothed 3 times a day for 20 minutes. She told her body what she liked about it. The second thing that she did, she accepted her negative feelings and took responsibility for them. She said she didn't really know what to do with them, so she just gave them to God. She didn't know what to do at that point. So any kind of negativity, she didn't pretend that it didn't exist. She looked at it, dealt with it as best she could, and then gave it to God. And the third thing that she did was she decided to forgive everyone and everything in her life. Any person that had ever wronged her, any situation that wasn't to her liking and for her advancement. Those were the 3 things that she did. The end of the story, well, it hasn't ended yet. Evelyn McDonald was the first person ever to fully recover from ALS. Full, complete recovery. She went on to go to seminary, and now she is an ordained Methodist minister, and she started the United Methodist Ministers with Disabilities, and she has been instrumental in the Disabilities Act and with our government and that sort of thing. Many things come up in this story. One is, one that we just can't miss, is gratitude and the power and magic of gratitude. Now, it depends on what your definition of magic is. Personally, I love the word. To me, what it means is something that is outside of our regular realm of thinking. Outside of our regular realm of thinking. I think I have anyway, I thought I had a definition, but I guess I don't. From the dictionary. I like my definition better anyway. But magic to me happens every day, everywhere. It happens all around us, all the time. But if we are closed off in a non-gratitude bubble, we are not going to see it. We won't see the possibilities. We won't be able to see the things for which we would be grateful otherwise. It would be difficult to move from the consciousness that we are now to a different level of consciousness without gratitude. Personally, I don't believe it's possible to move to a higher level of consciousness. So here are some of the things that we can do. Stop thinking and talking about things that we don't have. Now, I'm going to make a statement that the exception to any of this is if you've chosen a person or maybe 2 people that you process things with. That's a far different thing, because when we process things, we look for the solution to whatever the situation is. And sometimes, most of the time, I believe that we need to have another person to be able to process that with and talk about it so that we can get our ducks in a row, as they say. Seriously, my very favorite therapist that I ever went to had a painting of ducks in a row on her wall. If we have one or two people that we process things with, that's the time to say whatever's on our mind and be rigorously honest about it. Otherwise, if we hear ourselves telling that same sad story over and over to anybody that will really listen, that, to me, is ingratitude. It's walking in dangerous territory, too, because we're attracting more of that to ourselves. Stop criticizing others. That includes the government. It doesn't mean that we don't have opinions about things, and there are times to talk about opinions and state opinions. There is a difference between stating an opinion and criticizing. Only you know when you've crossed the line. Other people may think they know when you've crossed the line, but only you know. Gossip about others. That really one is a hard one because it's a little bit tricky, because sometimes until we have set a boundary for ourselves about what gossip is, we don't know when we've crossed the line. We need to decide, what does gossip mean to me? One of the things in Rotary, the last thing that's said in a Rotary meeting is, let me see if I can remember it. Is it true? Before we speak, is it true? Is it necessary? Will it build good relationships? If what we have to say will pass those, it's a four-way test, but I'm not remembering at the moment what the other one is. Is it true? Is it necessary? Will it build relationships? Those are the things that we can run by what we're about to say. Don't criticize ourselves. That's a big one, because this is where it all starts, right here. It's where it all starts. When we are gentle with ourselves, we tend to be gentler with other people. When we are tough on ourselves, when we criticize ourselves from within, we tend to criticize other people out here. It all starts right here. When we hear ourselves thinking, criticizing thoughts about ourselves, it's time to back up and figure out what to do to release that thought. Maybe we need to process it with someone. Okay, those are the don'ts. Here are the do's. Keep a gratitude journal. Probably a lot of you already do that, but here is an addition to keeping a gratitude journal. Most people that I've ever talked to say a gratitude journal lists the things that for which we are grateful. But go a step further. When you list something for which you are grateful, list why you are grateful for that. I'm grateful for my dog Freckles because she's always there. She's always smiling. I know because her tail's always going like this. You only need to look in her direction. You don't even have to speak to her. If she's laying on the floor, you just make eye contact with her and the tail starts to wag. It's that kind of thing. Grateful for your car because it's dependable transportation. It knows the definition of a round trip. That sort of thing. In the book, The Magic, there's a gratitude. She says, use a gratitude rock. Hold that rock. Either put it at your bedside, put it in your pocket or somewhere, that every time you see it or touch it, that you remind yourself to be in a state of gratitude. And this is one that I like a lot. One day a week, one day every 2 weeks, once a month, however often you decide to do it. And I would say, put it in your calendar, make a decision to do it, otherwise it's going to fall by the wayside. And be in integrity with yourself. When the day comes, do it. Either that or put it near that in your calendar as soon as you can possibly do it. But take that day and make a concerted effort to be grateful for everything that you see. Everything. Now again, I'm not talking about turn your back on the things that need to be dealt with. But to be, Mary's prayer this morning was like a prime example of that. If you noticed, her prayer was mostly about thank yous. It was about 95% thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Meister Eckhart, I believe he was 16th century, said, if the only prayer you ever utter is thank you, that will suffice. If you practice gratitude a little, you're going to get a little result. If you practice gratitude a lot, and you make a decision to be a grateful person with that overarching rainbow of gratitude over you all the time, even those times when you choose to step out from under it, you can get right back in it. But make a decision to be a lot grateful. The magic of gratitude will change your life. It will absolutely, I promise you, pinky swear, promise you, it will change your life. It will change your life. It will change your life. But it does come with a caution that when you have this overarching gratitude in your life and you experience it most of the time, it may come with uncontrollable urges to laugh.